What's going on, guys? This is David.
And Wayne, and we've got a special guest tonight. A good friend of ours, Bill Barnett.
Hi.
Bill is a good friend of ours, and he came across this guitar.
Yeah, this
Didn't look like this.
no.
No.
A friend of mine brought me this guitar, and that's what I do. I repair and create guitars. Mostly repair, though. I'm not really a luthier, as it were. There's plenty of good guitar makers out there. I just like fixing them, and I like recycling them. But my friend brought it to me, and it was in terrible shape. It had been butchered up. It had at one time had a tremolo system in it. As near as I can tell, it's an early '90s, late '80s Epiphone. It's a laminate body. They stopped making laminate bodies in *94, so it's got to be before then. And it had some type of tremolo. I thought at first it might have been a Kahler, but it had a floating back, so that would kind of eliminate that. I think it might have been a Wilkinson or something like that. It was probably a hair metal guitar at some point. And they took the floating trem out and tried to use a regular Gibson style bridge on it, and because of where the hole was, they were unable to place the bridge in the right position. So the guitar would have never tuned or played, so would have never intonated. And my friend asked me if I could fix it and make it play, and it was in such bad shape. I said, well, I can pretty much fix anything and make it play, but you could probably buy another V for the cost. So, so he is a good friend of mine, and I had some pickups that I wasn't, some EMG pickups that I wasn't using, and my son happened to be looking for a Flying V. So I said, I'm looking for a project, and I'll trade you these pickups for it. So that's what I did, and it had I thought it was a pretty good deal because it had a Seymour Duncan JB in it.
Okay.
Nice pickup.
Nice pickup, yeah.
A very nice pickup, if only it had been good.
Oh.
So that was a bust. But the guitar had a really good neck set on it. It was very solid, but it just had a lot of holes in it, both from the tremolo and from the ill-advised placement of the Gibson style bridge. So, normally in that case, what we would do would be to fill the post holes with dowel and just move it around. But there were so many holes in it, there was no way that I could make it look good. There's no amount of pick guard that was going to cover that up.
Right.
Yeah.
So I decided to. My original idea was to fill all the holes that I wanted to fill. There used to be a pickup hole here also, and then take a router and grind the top away, and then put a new top on it. But and then you came along, Wayne, and were able to machine the top off, which, as it turns out, was much better.
Yeah.
And I'm certain that presented some problems. Yeah. All of its own, but long story short, machined it down 3/8 of an inch, and I used, because it's a laminate guitar, I used a piece of birch cabinet material, which is also laminate, but it's very multiply. In a piece of 5/8, there was probably 12 plies in there, and Wayne machined that down to 3/8, and we put the new top on it.
Yeah, you can't even tell that there's...
No,
you really
look
can't.
at the sides and everything. I mean, that's part and parcel to my friend Dave Engel, who painted the guitar. Dave's and Steve own Nowfab in, I believe that's Johnsburg.
Yeah.
Johnsburg.
Yeah, they're the ones who painted David's guitar.
Yeah, they're the one that
Thanks
did
to you
prototype,
telling
yeah.
us about them.
Yeah, David's a great painter, and Steve can pretty much make anything out of anything. He's a fabricator. They build cars and repair race cars and so forth. Dave's been painting for 25, 30 years.
Wow.
And he really really has a handle on it.
So what made you choose the yellow?
Well, the guitar was for my son. And the
Okay.
reason I took the guitar was he told me a long time ago he really wanted to get a Flying V. I'm not normally a Flying V guy. I'm more of a traditional Stratocaster, Les Paul kind of
Right.
guy. But he was looking for a V, and that's one of the reasons I picked it up, because not only because it presented a challenge, but because he was looking for a V. So I told him I had this V, and I said, you know, it's going to be completely redone, so it could be pretty much any finish you want. It had a nice birch top on it. I figured, you know, if you wanted it stained or,
Right.
you know, cherry, maple, whatever.
Yeah.
Without hesitation, he says, yeah, I want it yellow with blue bubbles.
Okay. That works.
So I said, okay, you know, and originally I was going to try and paint it myself because a paint job like this is pretty costly, but I realized going in that, you know, this is not, I'm a very good guitar guy, but a painter, not so much.
Yeah.
So, and I was,
Been there, done that.
yeah. Well, and then I went and talked to Dave, and maybe I thought at first maybe to get some pointers from him, and he said, you know what, let me paint it, you know, and I'll take care of you. And he did. He was very generous with the paint job. But so this is a Porsche yellow.
Okay.
A competition yellow, and the blue is
Nice.
actually it's a Ford color. You may have seen this blue on many a Mustang. So
Yep.
so
I was gonna say, it looks like a Mustang.
he Dave's not generally an airbrush guy, but if you look at the bubbles were airbrushed on, and we took it was really hard. You know, when he said blue bubbles, you know, I didn't know if he meant polka dots or whatever, but so we were looking around on the internet for examples of bubbles, and Dave found the Alka-Seltzer package.
Okay.
So, and it had the bubbles on it, and we I mean, it's not an exact thing, but it gave us the idea of how bubbles actually are, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, let's go with that, you know.
Yeah.
And Dave drew them up and airbrushed them in, and it really turned out excellent.
Yeah, those guys do just amazing work.
Yeah, I've been in that shop, and I've seen you know, $1 million cars, and they build race cars and stuff. I mean, they literally can do almost anything. So and they don't shy away from a challenge, obviously.
So what kind of bridge is that?
This is a Leo Kwan Badass bridge. This is kind of my thing. I like one pickup guitars. I like the simplicity of it, and I like the wraparound bridge because of the attack and sustain that you get from it. And it's a rather simple way of doing it. The other way to get, the only thing that would give you more sustain would be to do string through the body.
Yeah.
And that's you know, that's a little more involved, and a lot of string through V's, the angle tends to be cut by the bridge.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to go that route, and I'm a big fan of the Les Paul Jr. and the SG Special, and
Yeah.
you know, they all have a wraparound bridge, and the Leo Kwan is has adjustable saddles.
Okay.
So you have a much, and you can move it out on the post. So
You can really fine tune it.
you can fine tune it. You can get the intonation right on, which is you know that's the only way I want to have a guitar, is because as you play up the neck, if the intonation's not right, you know, you're going to be playing notes sharp or flat, and you know, to get it exactly where you need it for every string is darn near impossible.
Yeah.
So to have and that's why Gibson developed the Tune-o-matic bridge, you know, in order to combat that problem. So
And the pickup?
The pickup is a Guitar Fetish pickup. It's a GFS D180, which stands for Dream 180. They say it's similar to two P90s, grafted into a humbucking pickup.
Okay.
And it indeed does have a kind of a good P90 sound. And it's got a decent humbucker sound. The reason I chose this is I had built another guitar for Andy, is my son, and his band is called Mooch, and they play out a lot. And he has a Les Paul Jr. that I did with one of these, and he loves the pickup. So don't fix it if it ain't broke, right?
Right.
So he really did, said, yeah, I like that pickup, and it comes in all the different colors. He'd originally wanted gold, and I kind of grappled with the gold, and I made an executive decision that the chrome would look better.
You were building it, so that's...
Well, I have kind of a natural aversion to gold anyway, because the plating process they use for that is not really good, and it rubs off, and it eventually looks really bad. So, and it has a rosewood fretboard. The frets are the original frets, though I did have to level them and recrown them and polish them. But there's still plenty of life left in them. And the nut is bone.
Okay.
I like bone nuts. Give you a much better transference to the headstock and the neck. The only other choice I would have other than bone would be graphite. And I had some bone, and I wanted to make a bone nut for it, so that I made by hand.
I like the truss rod cover.
The truss rod is polished aluminum. I have a stock of that material around the shop, and I use it. Sometimes I have a few guitars that I've actually made a lot of aluminum parts for, and the nice thing about aluminum is it polishes really well. I mean, you can get it to, as you can see, I mean, it's almost a chrome look.
Yeah.
And when it gets tarnished or scratched up or anything, it's you just repolish it. It's not like chrome where it peels off or anything. So I really like it. And then the tuners were stuff that I had laying around. I like to recycle the parts and the guitars themselves. This is obviously recycled.
All the extra parts you got lying around and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do a lot of guitars, and people replace pickups and people replace tuners and stuff like that. And these are a Ping style tuner, and they're good. What I look for in a tuner is the ability to tighten the key. And the ability to keep them tight to the headstock. I'm not much on a vintage tuner. I mean, real good ones like Wilkinson's or some of the Gibson ones are decent, but I like this. They're very positive and they're very solid. So, and it turned out really nice. It's a great playing guitar. It has excellent action. The neck, one of the things that I checked before I even started was that I had good truss rod movement in either direction, and I have a lot of adjustment potential in the guitar, so I can keep it playing nice.
Yeah.
I've made that mistake before with cheap guitars can have neck issues, and especially guitars that were made offshore. Although this one's old enough where the wood they were using back then was a little better. The neck is mahogany, so, and it's a two-piece neck, which I have nothing against two-piece necks.
Yeah.
They work. But the truss rod moved freely, and it made good adjustments. So that was what made me decide to go forward.
Did they put a clear lacquer over the fretboard?
No, not on the top, on the sides.
Okay.
And that's another thing, a style of the way I do it. I like to have the side lacquered because it kind of makes a seamless edge between the fretboard and the neck.
Yeah.
Feel wise. But you know, obviously we don't want to lacquer the rosewood. Rosewood is on guitars is left untreated for a number of reasons. It's a hardwood, so you get that, you know, you get the, you know, ability to attack the string, you know, drive it down onto a hard surface, and it also, because it's left untreated, it will absorb oil in your hands, and that will help your strings to last longer. And they can dry out, like when old guys like me play. You know, I'm not as oily as I used to be. But
like some other people we know.
but yeah, well, and my son's young too, and yeah, he, you know, I mean, he gets, you know, goes through strings a lot just because, you know, his hands, you know, even if he's washing his hands
Right.
regularly and stuff, there's a lot that comes off on the string. And rosewood is, I think rosewood is probably the best fret material. I like ebony because it's harder, but it does not absorb the oil like rosewood. And I even like Richlite because it looks like ebony, but that doesn't absorb anything. You know? And maple, you know, I like maple necks, but the lacquered maple necks eventually wear and look really bad. And you know, a lot of blues guys will go, well, that's when it gets to sound good, you know. And hey, I'm all for that. That's okay, you know. But it also it's harder to do the work on.
Right.
Rosewood's very maintainable. So
A good point. You know.
yeah. I'm very happy with the way it turned out, and it has. Which gives me a little more twang, and my son loves that too. And I mean, he plays through an AC-15 when they play live, and the AC-15 is a Class A amp, and it's loud, and it's also very brilliant, and he loves it, man. It's he definitely cuts through. You know, he's got a great tone, and so many people now don't have great tones, and you know, I think it's important that you have your own tone,
Right.
know? And he does.
You know, it wasn't until recently that talking to you and some of the other guys that, you know, really talking about the tones, and I really started listening, and it's like, wow, there's a whole new world out there of just, you know, not only the guitar sound, but the tone of the guitar, and what you can do with each guitar can have its own unique sounds. And
Well, and you know, I work for a guitar shop, and where I work, you know, we encourage people to find their own tone, you know, and to find their own style, and I encourage people to have their own guitar. You know, there's signature guitars out there. You know, you got a Joe Satriani guitar, you got the Steve Vai guitar, you got Eric Clapton guitar. You know, why would you want to play somebody else's guitar? I mean, yeah, they're cool, but there's a lot of stuff. There's thousands of pickup combinations, control combinations, string combinations, you know, material combinations. You can have your own signature guitar, and it's not really. It's not as costly as buying one of their signature guitars.
Yeah.
You know, so you can buy and you know, the Stratocaster is probably the most rearrangeable. You know, you can do and you know, maybe we could I can bring some of the other guitars in here that I've done.
yeah, I'd like to see them.
And you know, we do custom amp setups and stuff like that, pedal boards and so forth, so that you can contour your sound to make it your sound.
Yep.
You know, and I think that's really important. And I think if you want to make it in the music business, that's part, you know, I mean, there's a lot of aspects that go into making it in the music business, but one of them for sure is to not only have your own look and everything, but to have your own sound, you know. And, you know, it's a highly processed world out there, so,
Right.
you know, it's getting harder and harder, you know. So that's one thing I do is I like to consult with artists, and I maintain guitars for a couple of pro artists, and we talk about that all the time. It's guitar playing is just like fishing or hunting or anything else.
Yeah.
It's as much about the gear as it is about the action, and that's my niche in this thing. Is I want to provide people with something different and help them to be their own artist.
Has your son seen it yet?
I've sent him pictures, but I don't have a case for it yet, and he's rough on equipment anyway. Just because when they play, they go for it. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen them play before.
Yeah.
And they're definitely bouncing around.
Yeah, so I want to protect it as much as I can. After he gets it, I'm sure it's going to have some dings and stuff in it. But I'm really proud of the way it came out.
He did a fantastic job.
Well,
Yeah, those guys over
the guys at NowFab really did it, and what the original plan I had for cutting the top away would have been a ton of work, and Wayne, you were able to put it on the CNC machine and make
Right.
it perfect, and that's perfect is when you're doing handwork is not
Right.
a reality, So this guitar is perfect. From the build to the paint, it's flawless.
Yeah.
And it plays well. It sounds good. I couldn't be happier with it. And I'm sure he'll like it. And maybe I'll get a couple of my guitars back from him.
The holidays are coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
But people that don't play guitar, they look at this and they go, "Well, that's interesting." But like I showed it to my wife and she goes, "Oh, it's pretty." No, it's not. It's cool. But he this is what he wanted, and the fact that we were able to give it to him.
Right.
That's. When he said blue bubbles, I thought, "Oh, all right, we'll see what we can do." And
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah, it really does. Did a great
Well, I
job.
appreciate you guys having me out.
Yeah, no problem.
I hope to come back again.
Yeah.
I've got a bunch of toys and stuff that I.
Yeah, more than glad to come out and show us some of your gear.
Yeah, I have an interesting rig. My rig is. I would love to bring that out. I have I use when I play live. I use 3 amplifiers and I blend them, and it was something I'd always wanted to do because modeling amps like you have here,
Right.
they do a really good job of
Yeah.
providing you a general, clean, dirty this
Right.
and that, but. I always thought, wouldn't it be cool to have like the real deal, to have the best clean sound amp, which in my opinion is the Roland Jazz Chorus,
Okay.
and have the best dirt sound, which in my opinion is a Marshall, and then have that crunch, which is I would consider the Vox AC15 or AC30 to be the good crunch amp. So that's what I did. I got those 3 amps together and I built switching for it, and it turned out really well, and it sounds complicated, but I set it up. It takes me about 10 minutes to get everything set up.
Not bad.
And they all pass the one hand rule. I can carry everything with,
There you
with
go.
one hand, except for the pedal board, but that has wheels. So so.
Well, it looks fantastic. Great job.
Yeah, looks fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and thanks for your help. And really,
No problem.
appreciate it.
Anytime we can help, yes.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, you guys got a cool thing here. This is really a neat show, and I hope you get a lot of followers.
We're trying to promote some of the other local bands and
Yeah.
have them show some of their stuff and
Well, yeah.
let people know what really goes on out there.
There's
it's
a
not
lot-
just pick up a guitar and play it and run around on stage. There's more to it than that.
No, there's a lot of aspects, and there's a lot of really good talent locally that you can go out and for minimal price go and see play live, and it's so much more interesting than watching a YouTube video or
Right.
to see guys perform and to see the real sweat of it. And my band's an original band, so you're not going to hear that anywhere else. And
You don't hear that much anymore, and
no, it's difficult to we kind of gave up on the idea of just playing cover music, and we do some covers just because there's songs that we like doing,
Right.
But and my son's band's an original band too, and they play probably 80 to 90% original music, and I think it's more club owners that are afraid of it because they don't think that people will relate. But everywhere we go, we're very well received, and my son's band is well received. They attract a crowd of mostly young people that like to go to clubs and have a good time and so forth. And I think that kind of is going to be the wave of the future in entertainment because recorded music and so forth is now released on a minutely basis on
Right.
the internet.
Yeah.
Right.
There's so much to choose from, and that's great. I mean, there is a lot of stuff, but to be able to go out and see it live, that's special. And I would encourage anybody that's viewing this to really pick up an Illinois Entertainer and even your local newspaper, even like the Herald or any of those. They have a what's going on that week, and you can go see a lot of different things. Some of it's good and some of it's not. And that's the
But that's half the fun.
That's the adventure of it.
Right.
And back in the late '70s, you could have walked into Metro in Chicago and seen REM, after they crawled out of their van and play a set, before they were famous,
Yeah.
So, I think that the excitement of something like that is well worth the time that you would have to put into it. It's not like a hot stick in the eye.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so okay, guys. Thank you so much, Bill, for coming out.
thanks, Dave.
Absolutely gorgeous guitar.
Thank you.
Looks and plays great.
Yes, it does. It plays really well. I'm very happy with the way it plays. So, and he plays 11s, which is
Jeez.
a little heavier than I like. But
Well, when we stopped and saw you last week, you had let me try this, and even playing on the 11s, it felt awesome.
yeah, it's got a pretty long, string length, and the longer the string length, the less tension you have. So the
Yeah.
heavy strings don't feel as heavy as they normally do. So it's
But-
cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Bill, for coming out.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you, Bill. And remember to comment, rate, and subscribe. And we'll see you real soon.
Keep on rocking, guys.